Kral Space. I'm Kim Kral. Hi, I'm reporting to you not live from my closet. From my, where am I? In my closet. Hi, guys. Hi, I am really late with this on Wednesday afternoon. It's like almost 5. I usually try to record these yesterday or early this morning. I have so many mixed emotions about this, and everybody in my life is like, and I'm trying to think about how I would react if someone was this dramatic about something that I'm about to tell you. No, I'm not being dramatic. I'm just being really fucking hard on myself. I got super drunk on Sunday and everything was fine. I just got super, super drunk, and it wasn't like anything I wasn't like, I'm pounding a bunch of drinks. It was, I don't really drink that much anymore. First football Sunday, forgot that I knew every bartender. And my first drink, I had a couple mimosas in the morning because my friend's restaurant, Kitchen 24 on Cahuenga, not the one in West Hollywood, is shutting down. So we went to have a last brunch there, and then it was just I probably won't drink that much during the football game, so I'll have a couple of mimosas here because the mimosas at the Bronco game I don't know. You guys know how I feel about getting super wasted. It's not really my thing anymore, and I've worked really hard not to really do that. But I also I talked to my sponsor about my sponsor. If you're new to the podcast, I'm not AA. My sponsor we're not AA, and she's not going, it's cool, man. No, I'm in ACA, which is adult children of dysfunction and alcoholics. So my parents were alcoholics. And so I think every time I get really drunk, I have this weird guilt around it. I'm going to somehow end up like them. The age I am at now, I am eons different than both of my parents were and are. One died, but so I know I'm not, but I just don't like it. I don't. And so I was I'm definitely not going to drink that much when I get to the game because I'm only going to watch the game and then maybe meet some people. It was just a plan to stretch it all out. So I had a couple mimosas, and then I forgot that I am dear friends with the bartender at the Broncos bar. And I was I'll have a tequila soda. And it was a cup of tequila. And I'm talking a large solo cup. Not the regular size solo cup, but a large solo cup of tequila and a splash of soda. And I was Jesus, all right, man. And so I ate a big breakfast on purpose. And then I went to, I guess I just need to get this out. I know that a lot of you, we've talked about, you've reached out to me when you've struggled with drinking or you struggled with your different vices, and hearing about my journey has helped in some way. And I guess I feel I let the people down that I've talked to about this, that I've let you down because I got drunk. I was talking to my sponsor, and she's and I was well, I got really drunk. She's okay. And what else? I'm well, nothing really. I think I fell up my stairs on my way home, and my elbows are a little gashed up, which is really embarrassing. It's just embarrassing, right? But she's just okay. I'm going home to Denver in a month, and and I'll get back to the Sunday story. I have some fun drunk stories for you too today that I'm just gonna tell, and it'll tell you how eons different I am. And I just I think it's just I'm just I'm a work in progress, man. And I got drunk the other day. I got drunk on the first football Sunday. I didn't do anything terrible. I didn't drive. I didn't try heroin. I didn't blow 6 strangers in the bathroom. I didn't blow a stranger. I didn't blow anybody. I don't know why I had to say 6. So that way when I said I only did 2, you whatever. Okay. I no blowjobs of any kind on Sunday happened. Why did I feel I needed to do that? But I legit don't remember parts of the night, and I haven't done that in a long time. So it's just a little bit cringy, and I just don't, and a lot of the crew, in that area, that's sort of a norm for them. So, and thankfully, because they're all just it's cool, you're fine. It was a lot of fun. A friend of mine was yeah, just now she texted me and she's yeah, I put you in an Uber. She's you got out of the Uber. I don't know what else you did. I'm well, I know I walked home. So I probably got out of the Lyft and then walked home from there, which isn't my favorite thing I did, but it was at 9. Which I know. I don't know why I'm prefacing all this, because I'm so freaked out that people are going to be hey, are you okay? And I'm not. So I drank I mean, I am fine. Obviously I'm fine. But I mean, my body, I was talking to a girlfriend and I was just like, oh my God, it's so terrible. How did this happen? And she goes, well, you're drinking with a new body. Like, you've never done a football Sunday with your post-COVID pretty sober body. Like, I don't, the last time I think I had a drink, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't remember, but not a while ago. And so, like, she's like, you're dealing with a brand new body, so there's going to be a learning curve. And it's just, I don't know, I get so fucking hard on myself. I'm so hard on myself. But if someone like me came to me and said that, I got really drunk, I would have the same response that everyone that I'm talking to. They're like, and? It's like, well, that was it, But so, yeah, I sipped that cup of tequila through the first half. And then I was like, all right, I'll just get a beer and a shot. And the shot I'll take, at the end of the game, when we win, which we did, which is amazing. And so I get a beer, and then the shot is the same size as the drink. There's just no soda or ice. It's just like a half a cup of tequila. And I'm like, dude, you're killing me. I mean, thank you. It's so nice of you, but you're killing me. So I split the shot with this girl, and then we won the game. And then it gets kind of blurry from there. I know I went to a bar down the street. I know I saw a bunch of people. I know I saw a photographer I really liked, and I overly explained why I think he should take pictures of me. Yeah, I know. Yeah, those are the things I know. And I really fucking beat myself up. I beat myself up for the last couple of days. I mean, not only on top of it, I feel like garbage. It's Wednesday and this was Sunday. And I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this post-COVID. My post-COVID, not obviously we're still in COVID, but my body post-COVID, even if I have 2 glasses of wine, no water, and I don't eat before I go to bed, if I don't do 18 specific things and it's just 2 glasses of wine, I feel like I drink a bottle of tequila the next day. And so I guess if I get really drunk, I still feel like I drink a bottle of tequila 3 days later. So we're all just I'm saying this out loud for myself as well as anybody who's struggling with just acceptance and where you're at. You know what I mean? It's just I got drunk, whatever. I didn't it's everyone's reaction is the same. And I'm going to Colorado. It'll be in a month. 1 month I'll be in Denver. A lot of mixed feelings around it. A lot of mixed feelings. It'll be nice to see people. It's not the same for me than it is my cousins when the ones that live out of state and they go home, it's a fun reunion, and mine's not really like that. Denver is Denver's where a lot of really fucked up shit happened to me, and I don't know, the last time I was home was 3 years ago, and I was not treated super well. I was treated pretty poorly by a lot of family, and an afterthought kind of when I went to get my suitcase to put it in my uncle's truck, my family was there that morning. I thought to say hi to me before I left, but I don't know, because I put my suitcase in the truck. You're probably like, why'd you do that? Because I asked for help from all of my big, strong family members who are, strong dudes. And they called me helpless. They were like, you're literally one of the most helpless people we've ever met. That actually came out of one of their mouths. And it's weird now to talk about because I don't have the resentment I had over it. I worked through all the resentment. So I always have this fear that they'll listen to this and they'll be like, oh my God, she's mad still, or oh, she's holding on to this grudge. I'm not at all, but it really fucking hurt me after I left. So one of my family members was like, you're literally the most helpless person I've ever met in my life, which is hilarious now that now that I've done all this work. I mean, this particular person has never been on their own ever. And I live in one of the hardest cities to live on your own in the world on my own. And so it's just a bunch of projection or whatever, but it really hurt my feelings. And so that's why I was going to get my suitcase, because none of them budged. And they all were like, yeah, you can do it yourself. You have legs. And it was just I'm just used to the dudes in my life are, gentlemen. And And this is already when the guy was driving the family member that, and I'm being vague for a reason, but the family member who was driving me to the airport, that they already were like, oh, we're going to get you there. Like, I was there 4 hours early. And by 4 hours, I mean 6 hours before my flight. They were just like, yeah, we just want to get you out of here. And it was like, oh, well, I booked a flight later in the day so I could, hang out with you guys more. And they're like, no, we'd rather you just leave. I was like, so it's kind of a shitty time. And then when I came up to get my suitcase, I walked in the living room, my whole family was gone. And I asked my one family member, I was like, where'd everybody go? And he goes, oh, they left. And I was like, oh, it does still hurt a little bit. I was like, oh, they didn't say bye. And he goes, oh, they probably forgot you were here. And I was like, oh, that's a shitty thing to say. And he was like, well, they're all still outside. I think they're saying bye. They're saying bye to each other. They all live in the same fucking city, but they're all saying bye to each other. So I walked outside and I was like, hey guys, you're leaving? And they were like, oh, Kim, we forgot you were here. And I was like, cool. That's why I don't go home. And so I just and I talked to my sponsor about it. And I was just like, she's super excited about me going home because she's right. She's like, you've changed so much in the last 3 years. Like, and I think days like last Sunday or a couple of days ago make me feel like I haven't changed and I'm still the same like fucking party girl that like whatever. And I mean, I wrote a whole fucking book about it, but I'm a beautiful little work in progress. Like we all are, we're just all adorable works in progress and we should just be nice to ourselves. But like, so I and she was just like, first of all, that's what first of all means. But first of all, there's nothing that you're not going to be able to come back from. Nothing can happen at this point. Like she's like, all the work we've done together, all the growth I've made, like Kim Kral has had in the last couple of years, there's nothing that can be thrown at me that I won't come back from. And I think I kind of knew that already, but it was nice to hear somebody who knows everything about this woman this woman knows things about me that I thought I was going to have to carry alone for the rest of my life. And then she's like, well, what's the worst that could happen? I was like, well, usually when I'm home, I am drunk the whole time. That is literally the only way I get through it is if I just am solidly buzzed the whole time. And I mean, like literally as second I wake up, I pour a cocktail and I just can handle the insanity. And I was talking to one of my cousins and she was just like, I get it. She's like, it's all of the drama gets thrown at you at once, all of it at once. She's like, we have it all the time. So we're kind of used to it, but it all and it's true. It just all gets thrown in my direction at once. And it's just a lot to fucking handle. And I didn't have the coping skills before. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, do you have the coping skills now? Like the critical fucking voice in my head that's like, do you have the coping skills now? You got drunk on Sunday. I got drunk on the first football day. I didn't kill anybody. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I didn't do anything. I mean, I fell up my stairs. I had new shoes on too, whatever. But she's just like, there's nothing. And she goes, okay, so what if that happens? Like me being drunk the whole time I'm home. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't really like that very much. And she's like, but what, like, get drunk. If it's bad there and that helps you get through it, get drunk. She's like, you're not a fucking alcoholic. We've already established this. I love this. I told this to my buddy the other day and he goes, oh, okay, good. And I'm like, did you think I was one? But I think we all have our own stuff we struggle with and projections and all that stuff. But yeah, she's like, you're not a fucking alcoholic. We've already worked through all this. You're good. So if you go home, and I remember years ago when my cousin got married, I officiated the wedding and it was going to be the first time I saw my dad since I cut him out of my life. And I was really fucking scared. The one thing that I'm really fucked up about on Sunday is that I didn't keep up with my inhaler. And because I was so hungover on Monday, I also didn't keep up with my inhaler. And now my breathing's all fucked up again. So that is one thing that if I do decide to get drunk again, I probably won't drink 6 cups of tequila. Dude, that was literally like, I know that guy was looking out, like being like, oh, I want to hook up my friend. But like, that's so much tequila. I threw up on Sunday night. I'm not really a puker. And if I'm a puker, it's usually like the next day, but that was a long time ago, right? Oh man, guys, I'm so ashamed right now. And I know that people are like, because you got drunk? Yeah. I didn't do anything either. The friend that I was worried about that, because sometimes I get, in the past, she and I have had a tumultuous, rough patch past. And in the past so I've gotten drunk in the past, like years ago, and would like call her crazy and kind of be mean to her. And so I saw her a lot on Sunday, and I was just like, oh, do I owe you an apology? And she's like, no, you were totally nice to me. She's like, everybody had a good time. You were fine. She goes, stop overthinking it. You were doing great. You were having fun. Everybody was having fun. Everyone was shit housed because it was the end of the day, first day of football. We've all like reunited. So I was just like, why do I overthink this? But I'm so hard on myself. And it's so funny because if one of you guys were to be like, hey, I got drunk, I would be like, okay, so I'll be a little bit nicer to myself. And when I went home, and the family member that drove me to the airport 6 hours before my flight took off, texted me. Oh, and then there was like a massive delay. So then it was like 9 hours. I did end up meeting this really awesome broad at the bar who lived in LA, and she's a rock climber. We follow each other on Instagram now. I think we still do. Some people unfollowed and unfriended me over the pandemic because they don't align with me politically. And by that, I don't know, man. I will say it 1,000 times more and more. I can't, when people are like, well, you shouldn't let politics get in your way. And it's like, well, the politics I believe in are human rights and human decency and autonomy over one's own body and not regulated by Christians in the government. So like, to me, it's not politics. To me, it's like human beings. So, but a lot of people unfriended me over the pandemic because they don't agree that Black Lives Matter, or that women should have autonomy over their body. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Today was the anniversary of when my favorite teacher in high school, unfriended me last year. My microphone unplugged again. I think I would try and like redo it, but I'd have to tell you anyway. But yeah, she unfriended me last year because I said that if you felt that Planned Parenthood should be defunded, unfriend me. And she was like, this really disappoints me. And I forgot what I had posted about it. In it, I posted about how I had a really bad cancer scare, and Planned Parenthood was there for me when I didn't have insurance, and I thought I had breast cancer, and they thought I had breast cancer, and Planned Parenthood walked me through that whole I don't, obviously. That'd obviously be something you know about, but like, so the teacher unfriended me. She got in a huge fight with a few people on my feed, and then sent me a message saying that, she was really sorry that happened that way. And I was just like, I'm really sorry too. I'm really disappointed. I always thought that I didn't even say anything about abortions. I was saying more about how they do much more than that. But it's just, oh man. So I met the rock climber. So I hope we still follow each other. I just haven't seen her in a while on the thing. But so it was ended up, and then for a couple of hours in, the person who drove me to the airport messaged me and apologized that they shouldn't have taken me to the airport that quickly. I don't take offense. Ow, I keep biting my fucking tongue. I don't know if I when you bite your tongue once and it like swells a little bit and then you keep biting it. That's been happening to me for a couple of days. I bite my tongue on Sunday, guys. If you're disappointed in me, I need to stop that, dude. Everyone I've talked to is like, I've talked to you guys about critical parent. And that's like the critical voice in your head. My critical parent's really loud right now. Like, I just have a lot of weirdness around alcohol and like when people overdo it, just because of the environment I grew up in. And I don't really like to overdo it like that to the where I'm like, how did I get home? I haven't done that in years. Like, that's not me anymore. And if it is you, no shame. We've all been there, dude. There were years that I was a frequent blackout drinker. Not really a frequent, but enough to where it was something that I was like, I need to look at this. This is not a good thing. But yeah, I know when I go home, it's complicated for everyone. I don't think it should be. I'm not saying that it's a right feeling that everybody has, that it should be complicated because, everybody really loved my dad. And I think a lot of them, I don't think it's that they don't believe me. I think that if they admit that they believe me, then they have to look at what their part in the whole thing is. And if they allowed something to happen. And what really fucks me up about the whole thing is that like I get to endure this weirdness when I go to my hometown which should be an exciting thing to go home to. You know what I mean? Like seeing people that I grew up with, that I love, my family. It should be really exciting, but I get to deal with this weirdness. And then my family gets to deal with the possible, anger, guilt, all this stuff that comes with it. And meanwhile, the guy who should be feeling all of the guilt and the pain from it died. That guy got to die. And I mean, I know that Tom, I can't imagine. Honestly, I don't know. I like to tell myself that he knew what he was doing was wrong and that he had to carry that weird guilt with him. But truly, I don't know. I don't know if he blocked it out, if he's explained it away to himself. I'll never know, I don't think he vaguely, briefly mentioned it to my friend who came back with me when he died. And he would sometimes mention it to me, but like rewrite it. Like it was just like, oh, we showered together only when you were really, really little, like way before you went to school. And I'm like, none of that's real. Why would you try to rewrite my memories? So I know he knows what he did, but it just sucks that like everybody alive has all this weirdness because of something that a dead guy did, And maybe it'll be different this time. Maybe my sponsor is right. She's like, yo, you're going to go back. And she was like, I'm so excited. You're going to see how much you fucking have changed. And days like Sunday make me feel like I really haven't changed, but the difference is I didn't, I did take care of myself. I've been a little bit nicer to myself than I normally would have been. And I've talked about it with people, and like, instead of being like, is this a problem? Like I like when I was in college, I went to detox one night. I went to the drunk tank, and my mom, years ago when a thing happened called Drunken Sunday. I'll tell you about Drunken Sunday. This is what Sunday reminded me of. This is one of the drunkest times I've ever been in my life. And I had called my mom afterwards, and I felt so guilty and so crazy. And I had no idea what I was going to do because I just started Big Wangs. God, I was like 25 years old. I was so fucking young. I just started Big Wangs, and I didn't work this one football Sunday. And so my friends and we went and got brunch at this place and had bottomless mimosas. And then we went to Big Wangs, my brand new job. I had just quit smoking. And so there was a weird thing when you're a drinker and you smoke. There's a weird thing once you quit smoking, you tend to get a little bit drunker than you did before because you don't break up the drinking with going out and smoking. I don't know. This is what was explained to me this Sunday because this was one of the drunkest I've ever been. So imagine all of the embarrassing things you could possibly do while you were drunk. Put them all in one 8-hour span and have them at your brand new job. So I just had surgery on my tooth. I had my missing tooth that would like pop in and out. I don't know if you guys know that about me or not. I'm missing 2 of my teeth and I can pull them. Yeah, I think I told you it's hereditary in horses and females and female horses. And my mom and a bunch of my family, but females on my mom's side, women on my mom's side are missing the teeth in between your canines and your front teeth. My mom got to have braces where my dad bought her braces when they got together, and they pulled all of her teeth forward and then sawed down her canines, so she never had to deal with them again. I got implants, and I've had to deal with multiple surgeries. That's why I had to quit smoking. When it'll fuck up the chemicals to like fuck up your gums, and my gums were bounded to these these things in my mouth. Anyway, so I just had the surgery to get the newest implant so I could take my one tooth in and out. So I followed around the bartender that everybody had a crush on without my tooth in my mouth, crying, going, am I going to get fired? I hit on the owner. And for those of you who are Big Wangs ladies, not the owner you would think of, the way more embarrassing owner, hit on him a bunch. And then I was dating this guy. Oh God, this guy was so nice and so handsome, but he loved Jesus a lot and John Wayne. He had 2 really big photos of Jesus and John Wayne hanging in front of his bed. And it just like wasn't a joking matter. Like you couldn't ever talk about it. So I was dating that guy. He had webbed feet too, and you wouldn't be able to talk about that either. And every time we had sex, he was super religious, so he seemed so like ashamed by the whole situation. It was just like overly like affectionate and loving. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, he liked you, but I'm just closed off emotionally that I was like, oh, this handsome, nice guy. The Jesus thing was a little much, but and so I just started dating him, and I ordered a buffalo chicken quesadilla, and I was laying on the sidewalk outside of Big Wang's, eating it, crying, trying to text this guy to see if I should take a cab over to where he was. And this girl that I worked with, thank God for her, she took my phone. She took care of me. She like messaged him and was like, hey, I'm just going to go to bed. I'll talk to you later. I won't text anymore tonight. It was just like, don't call this guy anymore. But then the bouncer, I guess I was just like a total asshole to. Wouldn't get in a cab. And then I got in a cab, but then I decided to cab to my car. And then I got to my car and I looked at my car and I was like, I don't even know how to attempt to get into this thing. So then I called another cab. It's like one of the drunkest I've ever been, right? So I called my mom afterwards, and my mom was sober. This was when my mom was sober and on the right meds and like super lucid. And actually like the 5-year period I had that she was, like a mom, or what I thought, what I feel like she would have been like as a mom. And I called her and I was so ashamed, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go back to work and face those people. And I was such an asshole, and I cried. They saw me without my tooth in. And I was like, Mom, what if I'm an alcoholic? Like, what if I have what you have? And she goes, oh, honey, you're not an alcoholic. And I was like, are you sure? And she goes, well, when you went to the drunk tank in college, there was a moment where I was afraid that you had what I had. But then how you came back from it, and it wasn't like I didn't drink again for a long time. And then when I did drink again, it was like, oh, I can now, like, that was just a college kid learning her limits. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I promise. Like, and I was like, well, how did you deal with all this like drunk guilt, shame the next day? And she was like, oh, I never did. I would just wake up and once I felt it, I would just start drinking again until it went away. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't do that. I don't have that. And she's like, yeah, you don't. And I always joked with, Alan on people that like, I'm not an alcoholic. I never passed the physical. I tried, man. I really did. I tried to be one. I tried to bury all of my feelings and emotions and everything I could, everything that happened to me at the bottom of a bottle, but I couldn't do it. I was never a person that could like, drink days and days in a row and like drink all my problems away. I'm a person who will drink on Sunday and then beat myself up until one person, the right person is like, it's fine, you're fine. And then I probably won't get drunk again for a long time. I don't know if any of this is making any sense or if I just sound like I'm fucking spiraling, but I've had a rough couple of days of really beating myself up because I drank. Isn't that crazy? Like, it's not like I had like years of sobriety and I'm in AA. But I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday, and I don't want to be the person. I don't like it. I don't like being that drunk. I don't have fun. I guess I had fun according to pictures and videos and everyone that was around me. They're like, you were having a blast. And I'm like, well, that's fun. But it's just not really my thing anymore. And so I guess I guess I'll take my own advice that I tell everybody in my life all of the time. And what I would tell myself if myself was another person talking to me about this, I'd be like, dude, be nice to yourself. Jesus Christ, be nice to yourself. And also, I've had a lot going on too. It was nice to kind of let loose for a day and just be like, whatever. I do wish I didn't fall up my stairs with the whole elbow situation. You don't really realize how much you use your elbows until you've scabbed up your elbows. Then you're like, oh, I use those to get up every morning, use those to move myself on the couch or lean up against stuff. Just you use them a lot. But I didn't break anything. I did break my arm years ago. I don't know if I told you guys this already, but I'm going to tell you the broken arm story. This was actually the day. It's a fun story, but I'll tell you why, like the day. And that's the thing. I think why also I get so like freaked out about it is because I have used alcohol in the past to like bury shit. And, November of 2017, it was a football Sunday and I was taking a shower. And I had I always knew that my dad had sexually abused me, but I always thought it was covert, which means that they were, covert as opposed to overt incest. And I always thought it was that. But I also had read a lot. There's like 2 books written on covert incest. And I had them, but I never related to them. It's not really a subject that's like super talked about. It may be now. I don't know. I saw it on a Law and Order SVU episode. A Law and Order SVU episode when I first moved out here when I was 21. And I knew that my dad, everybody had told me that my dad was just like the best guy in the world. Like your dad loved you. Nobody else wanted you. And your dad did, which is such a fucked up thing to say to a kid, right? But that's generational trauma. And that's not anyone in my family who said that to me. That's not them. It's not their shit. I mean, it is all of our shit to handle now, but it was passed down. So but what a fucked up thing to say to a kid. So I grew up thinking that like I was lucky that at least someone wanted me. And I never admitted to myself out loud ever, that my father made my skin crawl. Like I couldn't be alone with him. And I thought it was always so weird that I told you guys about the hotel situation stuff. And I thought it was so weird that if we had such a great, healthy relationship and it was such a great, loving father-daughter, like better than what we see in the movies, then why was it that when we went on trips, I had to sleep in the bathtub or on the porch or in the car in order to get him not to come near me naked, but I never said any of that to myself in my head. Even it was just always like, that shit that you can't admit to yourself. And it's like, and so I always wondered that, I didn't always wonder that, but I knew I did everything I could to not spend alone time with my dad. And so I was sitting in my studio apartment. I was going to say, stop me if I've told you this one, but you can't. So, I was sitting in my studio apartment in Westwood, 2004 probably, and I watch an SVU, and this teacher who is a sex addict got murdered, and and then it comes out that she's a sex addict, so they're looking into all of her various partners or whatever, and then they go to her brother, and her brother's like, oh yeah, her dad never abused her, but dad would watch her take baths and stare at her chest a little too long and ask a couple way too many personal not dad questions. And then they dun dun, and then they went to sorry, I'm trying to line it up. Went to Olivia and Elliot went to a psychiatrist and asked him about it. Who's that guy who, oh God, he's in everything. Fuck, he's great. But he goes oh, it's called covert incest. And I, like a fucking light bulb went off. Like, it was like, that's what happened to me. And I became obsessed. And at the time I didn't have internet in my studio, because the only internet you could get at the time was either really, really, really expensive broadband. And I lived in a studio and made barely minimum wage in Los Angeles, or you could get dial up, which would also, it was also could be expensive. I can't remember, but it was cheaper to go to the internet cafe down the street. So I went to the internet cafe and I Googled covert incest and I printed up all this information. I recently threw it away, actually, because I was like, I don't need this anymore. I don't have to hold on to it. But I held on to it for like 15 years because there were like forums and chat rooms and like people that like had a parent that treated them like their spouse. And I didn't know that I thought I was alone. I thought I was completely alone in this. And I thought that like my feelings were invalid. I thought that like my feelings about my dad were wrong because everyone was telling me how great he was. And so I got these 2 books on covert incest, which there may be more now. I don't know. When I was looking for them, there weren't that many. And I got these books and they went over overt incest, and I promise I'll tell a funny story after this. So we'll get a fun palate cleanse. I don't know if it'll be a funny story. It's pretty funny. It's fucked up, but I related more to the kids, the adults who had been molested by their parents as children, not from the ones that had just like, I was this little princess and I used to, and not negating that at all. That's very traumatic. But and so as I moved into like 12 steps and talking more and more about this to like therapists were like, this doesn't seem, I had a therapist years ago. I ghosted this bitch right after this. I was like, it's too much. And I fucking ghosted. I'm sure therapists get ghosted all the time, but I mean, now in hindsight, now that I have like more information about who I am and what happened to me and how people that went through what I went through behave in certain situations, I ghosted because it was really hard and scary, and I'm avoidant, right? But she told me, and this was one of the first people to like validate that what my dad did to me was not okay, besides Law and Order SVU, because I hadn't really told that many people. I did tell my one, there's a bug in here. What? I did tell my one friend who was molested pretty bad, and she was like, that's all that happened? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess you were really bad. And I, at the time, I didn't know I was as well, but I told this therapist a lot about this stuff, and she said, I will tell you that if your father lived in the state of California and I knew he was around children, I just bit my fucking tongue again. And if I knew he was around children, I would legally have to report him. And that's so fucked up, but it was like the first validation I had gotten that something bad had happened to me. So he dies, and I truly don't think I would have ever been able to really face what had happened, really faced it, had he not died. And I talked about that in a month ago episode. But I don't really think I would have been able to because, I was terrified of him, terrified. And he constantly, he hadn't in a while, but he had a lot in the beginning, said that he was fucking bit my tongue again. What is happening? It's like swollen. It's driving me crazy. But he would like email and call and say that he was just going to drive to LA and wait outside my work or wait outside of my apartment, which is, I didn't realize the PTSD I had from that until Jimmy the Dragon was like calling a lot and knew where I lived. And I was like, oh man, I never dealt with that because I'm not scared of that guy, but like I was terrified. Every time I went to work, I was looking around for every silver truck I saw that could possibly be his. I was terrified. And so that the morning that I broke my arm, it was football Sunday on a November day. And I was showering and I had the memory of my dad, I don't need to trigger warn. At this point, I feel like my whole podcast is kind of trigger warning-ish. Speaking of, I think I got to revamp the fucking description because some people have messaged me and they're like, hey, there's a little bit. No, I think I talk about my trauma. It doesn't matter. If you have suggestions on how I should revamp the description, maybe get some new listeners that could be helped by this stuff. I feel like the more we talk about these experiences, they're not talked about much. We take the stigma out of them, and maybe we can help each other because this isn't my shame. All the the coping stuff that I've done, like this day that I got super drunk and broke my arm. That's my stuff, but that's my stuff to deal with, but it wasn't, it happened because I had severe trauma happen to me, but that wasn't, the trauma is not my shame. Like people are often like, you're so open about this. And it's like, well, yeah, I think that's the only way we can heal this. If we talk about, because it's not my shame, it's Tom's shame. And sadly, all the stuff that came with it is mine to, kind of work through, but it's not, I'm not ashamed of it. But I don't want to get too graphic, mostly because it is personal and it's also, but I had a memory of him molesting me in the shower and I fell down, and that's not when I broke my arm, but I just started crying. And then I went to watch the Denver Broncos, and then I just proceeded to drink that memory away the best I possibly could. God, if you're listening to this and you're like, maybe on Sunday you should be like, Sunday was fine, but no, that's my critical parent again, dude. This is way before Kim healed. But I met this guy named Ed. Oh, poor Ed. Sometimes I think I owe Ed an apology, but I feel like the more not an apology, but Ed, this girl was trying to break up Jimmy the Dragon and I, and she told Jimmy about Ed, this guy that I'm about to tell you about, and And I was like, and Jimmy was like, she said you're dating a guy named Ed. And I was like, Ed? I was like, oh no, not at all. And Jimmy met Ed, and Jimmy was like, that's Ed? And I was like, that's Ed. And he goes, oh, I'm not worried at all. And then we both laughed and walked away. Ed's fine. He's like engaged now, and he's a very sweet guy. So I was an asshole then. I think if I brought it up now, Ed probably wouldn't remember anyway. Whatever. Okay. I am having all sorts of like loud voices telling me that I am not lovable because of stuff like this, and it's just not true. It's just I'm and I'm trying to be as honest as I can in these podcasts. Obviously, if you've listened this long, you know that that's sort of my deal. But yeah, I feel like there's a back in my mind. There's like a bug, and I don't like killing bugs. In the back of my mind, please go away though. In the back of my mind about days like Sunday is like, there's a voice that's like, this is why you're alone. This is why you're not more successful, because I got drunk one day. But that's just my old voices and old tapes that I'm working diligently to, work through. And as I said, we're all just beautiful little works in progress, and I'm go away. Do I kill this bug? I can't kill this bug, guys. I'll think about it for a long time. I try not to kill bugs. I don't know. I feel like not this specific bug. I think this specific bug will be dead in like 12 hours, but like bugs have been here way longer than we have. And we just go around killing every living thing that we don't like where it's at. I don't know. I have a whole thing about that. But so I met Ed that day, and I if I ever saw Ed again and it came up, I would be like, yo, Ed, I'm really sorry. We still follow each other on everything. I'm sure Ed's fine. Ed, if you listen to this, I'm sorry that I was a dick with that boyfriend. I was a dick with a lot of people with that boyfriend, because that boyfriend was my rock bottom. And so Ed and I hung out, and then we decided to take an Uber. First, we went to Jumbo's. Jumbo's was closed. And then we went to Jumbo's Clown Room. If you don't know what that is, that's just like not a strip club in East Hollywood, where women dance in bikinis and fun outfits. It's really fun in there, actually. Where Jimmy the Dragon's married friend was like way too into. It's really fun to go. You tip them. Courtney Love got her start there. Like, it's really fun to go. You do throw dollars. It is like a strip club, but everyone knows that one creepy dude who stands right at the fucking stage and just stares like in the creepiest way, just throwing money at every girl like he's never seen a woman before. That was Jimmy's best friend, who was married to like this lovely woman. And I think about it every time I drive by. I'm like, I wonder if that guy, like, we'd be out and his married friend would come without his wife, and he'd be like, can we go to Jumbo's? Can we go to Jumbo's? And I'm like, dude, what's with your friend in that place? He's like, I don't know. He doesn't get to see boobs a lot. It's like, there's no boobs here. They're bikinis. It was just so weird. Anyway, so Ed and I go to Jumbo's. It's closed. So then we go to Koreatown, which is near his place, and we go to we're gonna go to B-Dubs. What is that? Buffalo Wild Wings. So we get out of the car, and I start skipping because I am trying to be cute, and I trip and I fall on my wrist, and I jump back up because I don't want to look stupid, and I'm also super drunk, right? Remember, I'm trying to drink away the pain of remembering the fact that my dad abused me as a kid. And I jump up, and I'm like, oh, I'm fine. It's fine. And Ed's like, are you sure? Your arm's pretty fucked up. And I'm like, it's cool. Let's just go get some more beer. So we go to Buffalo Wild Wings. We have some more drinks, and we go back to his house, and we're making out. Ed's place is a disaster. I was like, do you have ice? He's like, no, I don't have any ice. I'm like, you don't have ice? Like, not even. He's like, no. And I'm like, do you have Advil? He's like, no. And that's why now you just want to date a guy who has it together. You have ice. You have sheets on your bed. I don't know if he did have a really cute dog. And then we tried to start to fool around, and I tried to give him a blowjob. Sorry. I tried to give him a blowjob. But if you're doing it right, you have to use one hand on the penis and then another hand to prop you up. I only had one hand because I'd broken my arm. I didn't know I broke my arm at this point. It just hurt, right? And so I was like trying. And finally I was like, dude, I just got to go to sleep. I think I'm going to pass out. This is so much pain. And he's like, okay, yeah. So he like gave me this weird slink or whatever. We tried to like wrap it drunkenly. And then I woke up early in the morning, and I took an Uber home, and my fucking arm hurt so bad. And I was just like, oh my God. And just like it was just like, so I went home and I laid down. and I took a couple of Advil, and I just I laid with it for 3 days. And this was right before I met Jimmy. So I didn't have a job. I wasn't working. I was just sort of living off of inheritance, drinking my life away. And obviously that's why I get so triggered about what happened on Sunday, which truly wasn't fully my fault, as I used to be able to handle 3 to 4 drinks and be fine or a little tipsy. And so this is more for me than it is for you. But so I laid in bed, and then finally I text my buddy Alex, and this is one of his favorite parts of the story. This is actually very funny. I had a joke about this for a couple of years. It did really well. I, of course, didn't tell all the molestation stuff beforehand, because that's a real buzzkill when you're on stage. My buddy Alex, I was like, I think I broke my arm. Will you come take me to the hospital, the ER? And he's like, yeah. So we go to the ER, we fill out all my insurance shit, and we sit down, and then they call me back, and I tell them what happened, and they were like, skipping. And I was like, yeah, I fell down skipping. And they were like, oh, okay. And then another nurse came in, and she's like, so what exactly happened? And I was like, I fell down skipping. Where's my friend? A lot of you guys keep asking me this. Do you guys not talk to each other? Where's my buddy? Can he come back here? So I text my buddy, and I was like, why the fuck won't they let you come back here? It wasn't a nice ER. I was like, why? And it wasn't COVID. So I was like, why can't you come back here? And he goes, oh, Kim, they're questioning me a lot too. They think I'm your boyfriend and that I did this to you. And I was like, what? And he goes, well, yeah, because it's more likely that I hurt you than it is that a grown woman fell skipping. And I was like, I feel like that has more to do with your gender than me skipping. And maybe if your gender wasn't always, beating us up, they wouldn't be so freaked out about this. So the next nurse comes in, and I was like, hey, I know what this looks like. I really did fall skipping. That's not my boyfriend. It's just a good friend who's taking me to the hospital. I'd prefer not to be back here by myself. And they were like, oh, okay. So they finally let him back here. We're sitting there. And then I am, as a comedian, when you're in a situation where there's a bunch of new people and you sort of have the spotlight, you have to make everyone laugh. I don't know why. I don't know what it is that is inside of us that makes us think that we have to be like, ha ha ha, look how funny I am. But I'm making everybody laugh. And then the doctor goes, you have a really high pain. So everyone's laughing. Picture this. Everyone's laughing. And he's like, you have a really high pain tolerance. Because we're signing out at this point. So we're in front of a bunch of people. And he's like, you have a really high pain tolerance because you waited 3 days to come and check on your broken arm. And I was like, oh no, I was like, oh yeah, I just had a really mean dad. And then everyone stopped laughing. And then I went, it's cool though, he died, so it's fine. And then everyone then they started laughing again, because it was clear that it was in light, but he did die. So it was, and then the weird part about having a really high pain tolerance too is I went to the bone doctor, who is this awesome woman that I think about all the time. I wish we could be friends. I wonder if I should reach out. We were the same age, and we had so much fun. She probably was like, you're a fucking train wreck. She also was the first person to tell me that my boyfriend wasn't going to work out, Jimmy the Dragon. Because I met him a week after I broke my arm, and I was like, oh my God, I met this guy and blah, blah, blah. And I think he had driven me to my next appointment or some shit. And then the day I got my cast off, I was like, oh yeah, my arm was really hairy, and I shaved my arms because I just have always done that. Right. And so I was really self-conscious about how hairy my arm was. And that's what everybody who breaks their arm or leg or whatever, your hair just grows back and it kind of smells or whatever. But I was like, should I drive home? And she goes, is your boyfriend there? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, that's still going on? You seemed really into him. And I was like, yeah, it's still going on. And I don't know how it came out, but I was like, oh yeah, he's super religious. And she's like, aren't you an atheist? We had already she and I bonded, right? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, oh, that's not going to work out. Turns out it wouldn't work out either, because he wasn't a very nice person and also a massive cocaine addict who would not look at any of his stuff. But I'm grateful to him because I hit a rock bottom because of him. And it's so hard on myself. I'm like, but you did get drunk the other day. I got drunk the other day for the first time. And I think I got drunk on my birthday, the last time I got drunk, which was 3 months ago. And then prior to that was before I got COVID. So I'm having an existential crisis. I'm not. I'm just, I it's like a weird trigger for me. And obvious, if you grew up in alcoholism, then you know the trigger where it's just like, oh God, and it's just not real, and I can let that go now. But so because I had a high pain tolerance when I first went to her, she just put me in a brace because she's like, oh well, it's broken, but it doesn't seem like you need a cast. And I was like, okay, because she was like, most people would prefer if they don't have to have a cast so they can like shower and shit. And I was like, yeah. And then I went back to see her 2 weeks later and I was like, hey, this is really painful. Like, I mean, like, I can't do anything. And she was like, you just seemed so fine. That was one of my problems when I had COVID too, is I was raised in an environment that I wasn't allowed to really be hurt or sick. So like I have an even keel about everything in terms of like that kind of stuff I should be really dramatic about. In fact, somebody had suggested when I went back to the hospital for my COVID that I should be like dramatic so they might help me, as opposed to like when I was trying to get help for my depression, the doctor didn't believe me either. He was like, well, you just seem really grounded. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm just apathetic because I want to kill myself. Give me some drugs. And who's trying to get, that one really south. But yeah, like that's always been one of my problems with doctors because I'm so even killed. But then she gave me a cast. Then I brought it to my first show with a silver pen and asked comics if they would sign it. And I didn't realize that it would just be a bunch of silver dicks on my perfect cast. But yeah, so I don't know, guys. That was and if I'm honest, I think I avoided coming on here because I feel like I let some of you down, because I know some of you have reached out to me about my struggle with drinking and my struggle and not with drinking, but just coping mechanisms. And I wrote a whole book about it. I wrote a whole book about recovering party girl. But that, by the way, is why I had talked to some friends and I was asking about, I was either going to do recovered party girl, former party girl, or recovering party girl. And recovery is, the ing is, it's a verb, dude. And I didn't fall off the wagon of any kind. I didn't abandon myself. Like that's more for ACAs, is me abandoning myself. But I am struggling with a little bit. I am really embarrassed. And I think that's good. I don't know. I know a lot of people get that fucked up all the time and they just have no shame about it. It's like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, aren't you almost dead? Like, I feel so sick. And I'm just like, oh my God, how can you I just want to put all the nutrients in my body. But it's about balance, man. And yeah, it's about balance. And I'm sure, well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe some of you are listening being like, Kim, that's bad. But I don't think so. That's just my voices, my tapes that tell me that I need to be perfect all the time in order to be loved. And that's just not real. That's just not real. I'm a beautiful work in progress, right? We're all beautiful works in progress. We did it. I think that's the episode. I'm out of poop scoops, guys. I'm out of poop scoops, and I'm not pooping much these days. So I don't even know if the chances of me shitting my pants are very high. But if you're new to the podcast and you don't know what poop scoop is, poop scoop booty. Every week I talk about times I've pooped my pants, times I've almost pooped my pants, times I've had an embarrassing poop story, an unfortunate poop story. And then I like to tell your poop stories. So if you have a poop story and you want to hear them and you want me to tell it, please email me at kimkralspace@gmail.com. That's KymKralspace@gmail.com. And if you don't want me to say your name, also, if you don't mention, if you're not like, hey, don't say my name, I won't say your name. But if you're like, yo, I don't care if you say my name, I'll say your name. So it can be anonymous. I have a buddy who sends them in all the time. I should harass him about sending more. Roger, he's a fan favorite. He swears he has way more. He's already sent 7. I mean, it took me 45 episodes to run out. So what does that say? I haven't pooped my pants 45 times. I've just had a lot of embarrassing poop shit happen to me. Poop shit. But yeah, I think that's the episode. Let's do some I Am One Lucky Broad. Dude, I am one lucky broad that I have so much support around me, and that I do know that it's okay to misstep. It's okay to, let loose and have your vice every now and then. It's okay. In line with learning and growing and becoming, who I want to be, and recovering and, working through all this trauma and stuff. I'm also having to have that reminder multiple times, all the time, to give myself a pass at being perfect. Give myself a fucking pass at being perfect. I had an alcoholic tell me years ago. Oh yeah, I was telling you when I went to my cousin's wedding, right before the first time I was going to see my dad after I cut him out of my life, and I was so scared. And I was at an Al-Anon meeting and sitting outside with a bunch of old timers. People who've been in Al-Anon forever, and a couple of the guys were alcoholics, AA. They've been sober like 20, 30 years, some shit. And I, we were talking about how scared I was to face my dad and how, just what it would look like. And one of them, who had been sober like 30 years, who was also one of the first men I met in my adult life, really, that treated me with respect and not like I was like a sex object that didn't deserve rights. Sadly, that's sort of the person I grew up with. And he and another fella, both were just these awesome men who were just like good dads who treated me like with respect, like the way you're supposed to be treated. But I didn't grow up with that. My dad frequently told people that I was his. Frequently told me I was his. He could do whatever he wanted because I was his. How fucking wild is that? And there's people that believe that, but. It's this guy with 30 years of sobriety. It's the night before I'm leaving to go see my cousin get married, see my dad for the first time. And he goes, you're not an alcoholic. And I was like, no. He's like, you're not in the other program. You don't have struggle with this. And I was like, no. And he's like, get drunk then. Just fucking get drunk. And it's just like, I'm one lucky broad that I'm also learning that I don't have to be perfect. And that I'm still lovable even when I make a mistake or go back. Because the truth is days like Sunday are okay. That's fine. Let loose, have fun. But I don't like that, Like I don't like to be that way. And I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's anything I have to really look at and like freak out and think I have a problem or anything. But I just don't like to get that way. I don't like feeling that way. I like waking up early in the morning and, not having to piece together the night before. I lived that life before, I lived that life a long time ago. And even though, I let loose a little bit too much this Sunday, I get a pass at being perfect. And I'm one lucky broad that I have a support system around me that has reminded me of that over and over, not just this week, but anytime I feel like I've made a mistake and like my sponsor says, I have come so far that there's not really anything I won't be able to come back from. Not that Sunday's a day that day I'm like, oh my God, I won't be able to come back from that. But like, I feel that way, I think this whole time. I mean, even for any of you, I just don't think that there's anything that's so bad that you won't be able to come back from unless you like killed a dude. I feel like that, like there are like 3 things you can't really come back from, but like, I don't know, man. I think that we're all allowed to learn and grow and change. And I'm one lucky broad that I get reminded of that. And I have people in my life that feel that way too. Yeah. So thanks everyone for listening. If you want to send me anything, poop scoops especially, I'd love to hear your poop stories. We all have them. Even if you haven't pooped your pants yet, you have an embarrassing poop story. Send it to me or just say hi at kimkralspace@gmail.com. I have a Patreon. Now I will be uploading a bunch of my stand-up tomorrow. I have a one-woman show I did a couple of years ago about the death of my father, actually, and the Broncos, weirdly enough. And then the last half, dating story. Anyway, it's about a 1-hour, one-woman show that I'm going to upload for the Patreon subscribers. So if you would like to be a Patreon member, Patreonism, you get you can get bonus episodes for as little as $3 a month. And I am now doing freelance, just trying to, get as much random jobs as I can. So it would be awesome if you were able to do that and support the show in that way. I would really, really appreciate it. Or you could buy my book. Have I mentioned that yet? Have I mentioned that I have a book? Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. If you've bought a book, you bought a signed copy on my website. If you want a signed copy, you can go to my website, kimkral.com. All of the signed copies are in the mail. So sorry for the delay. Oh my God. So Amazon, when you buy them regularly, they're like, oh, it'll be here tomorrow. If you buy them as an author, you get like an author price. So you get like that, you get it at cost. So it's much cheaper. They're like, it'll be there in 25 days. And so now I finally have learned I just will consistently be ordering books because this last time it was 5 days late. And then on day 5 that they swore up and down it would be here, it was like, we happen to have lost your package. And I messaged Amazon. And I was like, yeah, that's not okay. Because like I sell these and people have bought them and are waiting for them. And they were like, we can offer you the $8 in shipping that we charged you. And I'm like, what? And they're like, and then you can just reorder. And then by the grace of something, they all came in the mail finally. So if you ordered a signed copy of my book, no, it is on the way. And I appreciate your patience. Unfortunately, I didn't have much control over that. And this is a good problem to have, that I'm now again sold out, but the next batch should be here should be here next week. So if you want to get a signed copy, go to kimkral.com. And if you just want to go on Amazon and get it, or I also have it on fucking Kindle. So if you want to do that too, it's all on Amazon, Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. I would love if you got it. And if you have read it and you like it, please leave me a review, and leave me a review on this podcast too. Just asking for all of the love and support if you are able to. It means the absolute world to me, and I'm really grateful that I have this every week, and I have all of you listeners that listen every week and sit with me while I work through some really hard shit and expose some really hard shit. So I really appreciate it. But I think that's it. Oh, Henry's doing good. We'll do a quick Henry update. He's doing all right. He in the middle of the night was asking for food. Oh, not the middle of the night. Like 7 a.m. But to me, sometimes that's the middle of the night, depending on what I did last night. And asking for food. And he hasn't really been asking for food at all since his treatment. So I think that means, and then I also called the vet because I was worried because he was hiding under the bed a lot and hiding from me. Like a couple of times I came home and he like ran under the bed, and he's never done that. And I called the vet, and God, I love my vet. I love them. They're a little more expensive, but I think it's better to go to an expensive doctor that you trust than it is to go to a shitty one that's trying to extract your animal's teeth for $1,200 a tooth. That was the last vet. They can die in a fire. I was like, yo, can we just maybe figure out what's wrong with my cat now before you start upcharging me like a fucking sketchy mechanic? Like, what are you doing, right? But so this vet, my vet, who I love, if you are in LA, go to Dr. Kumar. He is amazing. He's amazing. I love him. And he has a cat that he loves a lot too. But I called them and I was like, these are the things that Henry's doing. And he was like, oh, okay, well, is he puking? And I was like, no puking. And I was like, he had diarrhea for like a day and a half afterwards. And the vet was just like, he had a very painful thing happen to him. He was in a cage for 3 days, and radiology is painful. It's like it is with humans. It's painful it's uncomfortable. It's painful. And so he's going to be a little off for a little bit, but just, be patient with him. And he's starting to finally, and he slept with me for most of last night. I don't know. We're doing well, but we have our checkup on the 27th. So send all the good vibes to there. We have like 3 more months. I bit my tongue again. I'm going to get out of here so I stop biting my fucking tongue. But yeah, we have a couple of months before we're totally in the clear, but so far, so good. Thank you for sending all the love to that. And yeah, thank you. Just thank you. I really needed to talk today. I've been really fucking beating myself up all week over a couple of shots of tequila. I know. Like I said, probably the title of this episode, we're all beautiful works in progress. I will talk to you guys soon. Hope you're having a good week, staying safe and being kind. Bye.